welcome everyone to another week of the Focus TV. We're joined by Octavia Wyatt. We got Raymond Lyons here. I'm Wilson Turbot Jr. Look, it's season 7, episode 47. Got a lot to get to. We're getting one step closer to knowing exactly who's playing in the WNBA Finals, which is literally happening as we're recording tonight. So we're going to talk about the other team that's already there waiting. We're going to talk, obviously, about the NFC East because football's been crazy this year, depending on who you're a fan of. Some fans, you're loving the heck out this year. It's been a year you've been waiting years for. Other folks, you're just hoping that it gets through. And then we got some really fun topics in Take It or Leave It and Rapid Fire. But Octavia, we'll start with you. What the heck's going on in your division? And yes, I know you're happy because your team didn't play.
Yes, I am. I'm very happy that my team didn't play, so we could not lose. But I'm also not very happy because everybody in the division won this week, which is crazy. As we know, the NFC East has started getting some traction, and I can only, be real and give props where props come in. And your home team, Washington Commanders, looking a little good right now. The Washington Commanders defeated the Cleveland Browns 34-13. There are a lot of people on my list to give out their stats, which says a lot. Jaden Daniels, 14-25, 238 yards. He was sacked 3 times, 11 carries for 82 yards. Austin Eckler had 6 carries for 67 yards and 2 receptions for 30 yards. Jeremy McNichols had 7 carries for 44 yards and 1 touchdown. Brian Robinson Jr. had 7 carries for 18 yards and 2 touchdowns. Terry McLaurin had 4 receptions, 112 yards, 1 carry for 2 yards. And De'Ami Brown had 2 receptions for 57 yards and 1 touchdown. I mean, now look, I'm trying my best, of course, not to sound like a hater because I'm not trying to hate. I'm being completely honest. They look good. Don't get me wrong. But it's the Browns, bro. The Browns look terrible this year. They look terrible. It's so bad. But as I always say, you play the team that's in front of you and you do what you're supposed to do. And that's what they did. I mean, I think they've been over 30 points almost in every game this year that they've played in. We know that they haven't punted a lot. They haven't kicked a lot. But they just been playing well. They've averaged the NFL best 33.8 points per game and 409 yards. It's just kind of wild. We kind of started talking about this the year when Daniel Snyder finally sold the team and Josh, I don't know why we say Josh Hart, but Josh, whoever he is, I can't think of his last name, the new owner, took over and they started to kind of sort of do things that make sense for a comparable franchise. And I didn't like it. I still don't like it. But if you're a Washington Commanders fan, I know you guys are. I wish I would stay off of my Facebook, my Instagram, and my Twitter and out of my phone because y'all are relentless right now. But I'm happy for you guys because for a very long time, we all know living in this area that Washington Commanders fans / the old name have had a hard time being fans. And we always knew that those fans always stuck behind their team, even as much as they hated them and they hated how they played. And now they're really starting to bear the fruits of their labor. So congratulations to them. Some bright spots in this game. I mean, granted, like I said, the Cleveland Browns offense is just terrible. I don't know what Deshaun Watson is doing. But again, you play the team that's in front of you. There may have been some questions about Washington's pass rush going into this game. We know with them getting a defensive-minded coach coming in and Dan Quinn, that was definitely something that he was going to look to shore up. It was a little shaky in the first couple of weeks, but in this last game, they were doing an amazing job. The Commanders got to Watson 7 times, so they sacked him 7 times. They don't really have one person on the team that might be a 10 to 12 sack guy or anything like that, but a lot of their players are finding a way to the quarterback. 2 of those players that find themselves there a lot are Frankie Louvu and Bobby Wagner, who combined for 13 tackles and 4 sacks. It's the 3rd time that Louvu recorded multiple sacks in a game, while Bobby Wagner picked up his 35th of his illustrious career, as we know. It was just a tremendous performance from them. The defense basically they have given up a lot of third downs within the last couple of games. In this game, they did not. They held the Browns to 1 third down conversion on 13 attempts. If you're Browns, you're never going to win a game like that. Some things that it looks like some people were also looking to, we know Jaden Daniels has had a stellar first 5 weeks. He is what everybody thought we would be talking about. Caleb Williams. We are talking about Jaden Daniels. And because he's played so well in the first couple of games, some people are looking to see how he plays when he faces some adversity. Last game was his first interception. And how he decided to bounce back from that. He also had one in this game as well. So just like in week 4, he bounced back from a few mistakes that he had. He followed up the interception that he had in this game with the 34-yard scoring drive that started with the 12-yard pass play to Terry McLaurin. The series ended with a touchdown from Brian Robinson Jr. And later in the half, he converted a 4th down with a 34-yard run that set up another score. And he capped off the first half with a 41-yard touchdown pass to De'Ami Brown, which put the Commanders up 24-3, and they never, ever looked back. I don't think they looked back when the game even started at all. Their running game has been phenomenal, largely in part to Jaden Daniels as well. He had 82 rushing yards. He now has 300 yards for the season he now has 300 yards for the season in 5 games. But in this game, he had 11 carries. Austin Eckler, who didn't play last week due to a concussion, he came back as well with the 67 yards, most of which came from a 50-yard run that set up a field goal. They put up 200 yards plus rushing for the 3rd time in 4 weeks. They're doing well. They're going to have a big test this week. So if you want to see some adversity, it will be some adversity this week coming up. They'll play against the Baltimore Ravens. Just like Jaden Daniels can run, we know Lamar did a crazy play against the Cincinnati Bengals this week that I feel like only Lamar Jackson can do, but I'm sure Jaden Daniels is waiting for his chance to be able to prove himself that he can be in that top echelon as well. People are already throwing around, is he going to be the MVP of the league this year? I think we're a little early. I give it some time. He's definitely had a great start to his season and to his career. But let's let him settle in a little bit. But their next game is going to be Sunday at 1:00 versus the Ravens. So the Battle of 95, we will see how that goes. The second team to win this week, the New York Giants, in a, I would say, stunner. Just seeing how the Seattle Seahawks has been playing so far this year. The New York Giants defeated them 29-20. Daniel Jones was 23 of 34, 257 yards, 2 touchdowns, and I would like to say 0 interceptions. Congratulations, Daniel Jones. He was sacked 3 times. He had 11 carries for 38 yards. Tyrone Tracy Jr. had 18 carries for 129. Darius Slayton had 8 receptions for 122 yards and 1 touchdown. And Wan'Dale Robinson had 6 receptions, 36 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 carry for 4 yards. Mind you, they were playing this game without rookie standout Malik Neighbors, who did not clear concussion protocols, as well as starting running back Devin Singletary, who also did not play due to injury. So being down pretty much your top 2 is, I would think most people thought would be a recipe for disaster for them, but their defense really stepped up for them in this game. The Giants, surprisingly, leads the NFL in sacks. They're averaging 4.4 per game. They sacked the Seahawks quarterback Geno Smith 7 times on Sunday, 3 of them coming from defensive tackle Sexy Dexy. I just like saying that. The Giants trio of Sexy Dexy, Spider-Man Brian Burns, and Kayvon Thibodeau combined for 15 quarterback pressures, including 6 sacks. So early on in the year, I felt like we weren't really getting that much production from those 3, which are the big 3 names that they have on that defensive side. They came to play in week 5, especially against the Seahawks, again, who have been playing really, really well so far this year. Also on the defensive side, they actually have yielded, the Giants have yet to yield 100 yards to a wide receiver this season. Which was also kept alive in this game when you're going against the 3-headed monster of DK Metcalf, Jackson Smith and Jigba, as well as Tyler Lockett. Deontay Banks and them back there, you know, they were able to hold it together with those big three names that we know for wide receivers. Also, rookie safety Tyler Nubin, he actually led the way with 9 tackles, 1 for loss, and a fumble recovery. And Deontay Banks, who has been struggling a little bit, he entered the game yielding the most touchdowns in the NFL, which is 4. He made 6 stops, defended 3 passes, forced a fumble, and allowed just 2 catches for 17 yards. Tyrone Tracy Jr. had to step in for Devin Singletary, who was also out. He had a good showing as well, which kind of gives them a little bit of faith and hope that they have at least somebody behind Devin, especially depending on the injury that he sustained, which he was out with a groin injury. So, you never really know how long those are going to linger. And then, of course, you got to give a little bit of love to Daniel Jones. He kind of looked like he went back to his old ways where I feel like earlier in the year, and I mean, with understanding, and I understand, and that sometimes you just want him to. He was very cautious with throwing the ball because, of course, he was very much turnover prone with the interceptions. He kind of looked like he was like, F it. If I'm going to go out, I'm going to go out swinging. He used his legs a little bit more. You know, he is a mobile-ish quarterback. So he was able to have 11 carries for the 38 yards, especially knowing that you don't have Devin Singletary and then you don't have a playmaker, Malik Neighbors. So, I mean, it came down to the wire in that game, and, you know, they were able to keep their poise and pull out a win in Seattle, traveling cross country. I recently went to LA a couple of weeks ago, and I mean, when I came home, I was asleep for a day and a half because I just can't do the time difference. It was horrible. So, you know, to go out there with that time difference, you know, that's got to take some type of toll on your body as well. For them to get out there and get a win, especially in, you know, it kind of keeps them a little bit in the thick of things in the NFC East, and the NFC as well. So, but they also have another big test coming up for them as well. And y'all know I hate primetime games for my team. So if this is your team, you probably hate primetime games as well. They have a Sunday night game versus the Bengals. Who the Bengals, although 1-4, they've been in every single game they've been in this year and could definitely be 5-0 at some point, or at least 4-1, because I think one of their games got blown out. But they definitely could. So, you know, Joe Burrow and those boys, they're going to be out for blood. So the Giants are going to have to put together another really, really good game in order to rival in that game against the Cincinnati Bengals. And last but not least, the game that started the latest I've ever had in my entire life. The Dallas Cowboys had a Sunday night game against the Pittsburgh Steelers that didn't start until like 1 o'clock in the morning. So I missed half of it and had to watch it at like 4 o'clock in the morning when it replayed on NFL TV because it was ridiculous. The Dallas Cowboys defeated the Pittsburgh Steelers 20-17. Dak Prescott was 29 of 42, 352 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He was sacked twice and had 1 carry for 3 yards. Rico Dotto had 20 carries, 87 yards, and 2 receptions for 27 yards and 1 touchdown. And Jalen Tolbert had 7 receptions for 87 yards and 1 game-winning touchdown for them. To say it was an ugly game would be an understatement. I mean, to start off with the weather, of course, which was a 90-minute rain and thunderstorm and lightning delay that caused the game to start super late. And like I said, I was halfway asleep by the time it started. Dak Prescott, again, with a kind of up and down game. He was a little bit uncharacteristically sloppy within the red zone in week 5. He was responsible for not 1, but 2 red zone turnovers, a lost fumble, and an interception in the first half, left a lot of points on the board, 14 to be exact. Then he came out after the half and committed another red zone turnover. Not him, but the Cowboys came out after the half and committed another red zone turnover where Brandon Aubrey, who automatic field goal kicker, his field goal attempt was blocked, moving the loss of point total to 17. So that's 17 points that they could have potentially had that would have put this game away for them early on and not really had to worry about too much. But if you want to say bright spots, of course, as well, Micah Parsons did not play. DeMarcus Lawrence did not play. Marshawn Nealon also went out, who was DeMarcus Lawrence's replacement. So for them to miss a lot of those key players on defense, they still were able to hold and, you know, kind of hold Justin Fields, who's been having a pretty decent year so far. and they held him to a point where he wasn't that effective for them. On the offensive side, also, their running game in particular has been a little bit of an issue on their first downs. In week 5, the Cowboys ran the ball an unofficial 15 times on first down, with just 6 registering as successful. A success rate of 40% is going to be hard for them. So it continuously puts them in passing downs, and it puts a lot of pressure on the only wide receiver you really have in CeeDee Lamb, although Jalen Tolbert did step up, catching the game-winning touchdown because they were also without Brandon Cooks, who was also out with an injury. So they have a lot of injuries that they're having to nurse as well. And they are not one of the lucky teams that are going to have a super early bye. And they're definitely coming up on a big stretch of very, very important games against what you would call maybe the upper echelon of the NFL, even though this year is crazy. You never know what's happening. The teams that you think are going to win, and they ain't winning all the time. Another thing, when I talk about that, of course, they have a lot of the injuries like I just talked about. Luckily, it looks like Nealon might not be a huge injury, but it was a knee injury. And then the one thing that I feel like we always kind of go back to with the Dallas Cowboys is those pre-snap penalties on offense. They had false starts from Guyton, Steele, Bass, and Lamb, which obviously digs them in too many unnecessary holes, puts you in passing downs where you don't really have that strong of a wide receiving corps. And it's an obvious pass in order for you to try to get a first down. So they're going to have to get that together. They had a total of 11 penalties for 89 yards last week. And then this week they had another 11 penalties for 87 yards. It didn't come back to bite them in this game completely. But like I said, with the stretch of games they have coming up, I think and starting this Sunday, they're going to play against the arrested Detroit Lions, who were on a bye last week. I think they have them. I think they have the Bengals coming up. I think they'll have they already played Baltimore. They have the Eagles, even though I don't know what we look like. They have a lot of teams where there's a possibility that they could go on a slide. So hopefully with them, for their sake, they're able to get some of their injury-ridden players back, to be fair, and put together a string, because right now it's looking like in the NFC East, you kind of really got to see what is really going to materialize with the Washington Commanders. They're 4-1. They're on top of the division. They haven't played. I think they played the Giants already, so they have one divisional win. But you really want to see how solidified they really are. Is 8 or 9 wins going to win the NFC East again, as it used to be a couple of years ago, where we were just used to it because we would lose to everybody else and then beat up on each other and just be like right in the middle of 8 or 9? We'll see. But again, the Dallas Cowboys play the Detroit Lions Sunday at 4:25. And the Philadelphia Eagles, coming off of a bye, thank God they didn't lose. They're 2-2, and they are going to play against the Cleveland Browns at 1:00 on Sunday. And I promise, for God, if I come in here on Tuesday and they lost to the Cleveland Browns, I'm not coming. Let's just say that. Because if they decide to let the Cleveland Browns get it together on them after coming off of a bye, it's already been kind of percolating that Devontae Smith, who was out with a concussion, will be back. A.J. Brown, who was out with a hamstring, will be back. Lane Johnson, who was out with a concussion, will be back. Hopefully, Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni kumbaya'd it out over this last week. Darius Slay can stop talking to Michael Parsons on podcasts and all types of craziness. And maybe C.J. Gardner-Johnson can be quiet for a little bit longer. They did release Devin White today, who hasn't played at all this year. I thought he would be, more involved, but he started the season off injured. And then I will say, I think that Nakobe Dean has come on really well as Zach Bond, who we really probably weren't expecting to, because he didn't really play a lot of linebacker in New Orleans. But Vic Fangio saw something, so they were able to really get him in there, and he's been having a hell of a season as well. So we'll see. I have not been on the fire Nick Sirianni train like a lot of Eagles fans and NFL fans have been. We know I'm sure we'll get to it later, but we did lose one coach in the NFL today. And people are saying, Nick, don't be number 2. Don't be right behind my man that just lost his job today. Yeah, because to be fair, if for whatever reason Nick Sirianni, if he were to get fired, I would be very nervous of who would be taking over. When you have Kellen Moore and Vic Fangio as coordinators, I would be a little nervous. But we will see what happens. Hopefully, fingers crossed, they get it together, because I really do feel like you lose to the Browns, it's really going to be some tough decisions and conversations that are going to happen. Hopefully not so early in the season, but as we saw earlier today, it can come at you real fast. But yeah, the NFL is NFLing.
Man, they have full NFL, and we're not even at the midway point. Fan bases got to take deep breaths. We got several fan bases ready to fire people, to march down on organizations like it's a scene from The Simpsons. Like, it's not even week 8 yet. They had another week to the season. Can we just take a deep breath? And like you said, we'll get to Woody Johnson and them a little bit later with the decisions that he made. But some of y'all just got to relax. And also, Octavia, from a side note, I am so happy that the young fellas on your team at linebacker are doing well.
Finally.
Look, I'm so happy because the old dude that my team signed is staying next to Fred and watch stuff happen next to him that they've been picking on. Devin, come on down, bro. Can you get healthy? I will not say one bad thing about Philly for quite a while. You just got to be closer to the person that employee 59 was, because that dude is he's been struggling. But
yeah,
real
but
quick,
I will say one other thing too that I forgot to mention, because I know one thing that we talked about kind of in the past with our secondary is like a lot of them don't really like hitting. And I feel like the one that we got last year who loves hitting is the one that got injured and was on an ACL injury. They just opened his practice window with Sidney Brown. I'm hoping he is as healthy as possible and he can come in and help as well.
Yeah, man. Defenses miss tone setters. It's a beautiful thing. All right, on to the WNBA. Last week, the semifinals were underway. We said by this week we should know who's playing in the finals, as I said earlier. Some teams taking it down to the last bounce of the ball in the semifinal round. We got the Lynx and Sun currently playing while we're recording this. We'll get to that in just a little bit, but first let's look at the other side. We have the Liberty take a 2-0 lead over the Aces. Then the Aces won Game 3 to stay alive in Vegas. And the Liberty ended the season in Vegas with an 88-84 win this Sunday. Sabrina Ionescu led the way with 24 points, 9 rebounds, and 5 assists, while Stewie and Jonquel Jones added 15 and 14 points respectively. Asia Wilson led Vegas with 24 points, 7 rebounds. Jackie Young chipped in with 17 and 6. Thoughts on the Liberty making it back to the finals? Ray, we'll start with you.
Yeah, man, they got their lick back. You can't do nothing but respect it. They were clear that they were on a mission, and they're 3 wins away from achieving that. It's definitely got to feel good to eliminate the team that took the championship away from you last year. But yeah, I'm sure they don't think the job is done because they still have another series to play. But yeah, they overwhelmed the Aces. That front line and their size, it was just too much for Vegas to deal with. The first Game 1, they just dominated from start to finish. Game 2 was a little closer. Vegas had their chances, but they couldn't capitalize. And then Vegas responded like champions in Game 3, first game at home. Came out with a lot of energy, and they kind of put belt to ass. Game 4, Liberty just they ran away with it at the end. We always talk about margin of error. Vegas's margin of error was very slim, and they had their chances. They left about 20 points on the floor between missed layups and free throws. So they had their opportunities, but they weren't able to capitalize. And the Liberty just kind of finished pouring the dirt on them and got them up out of there. Feel like we've been talking all season about Sabrina Ionescu's improvements, and that paid huge dividends for the Liberty all year. They were the number one team basically from start to finish, and specifically in this series, when these two teams matched up in the finals last year, she was almost played off the floor, to be perfectly honest. But she went in the lab, got better, and she was the difference. Vegas had to adjust how they defended the Liberty and how they attacked them offensively, because Sabrina's defense improved. And then with Breanna Stewart, she wreaked havoc defensively in the series, man. She was all over the place, basically defended 1 through 5, help side, rim protection, anything you need. That I think that even outside her offensive explosion in game 1, her defense really was one of the deciding factors. And the Aces just had their hands full. Asia, she got to make a choice. She's capable of defending Stewie, but if she's not defending Jonquel Jones, Jonquel's going to have 30 rebounds. So, yeah, man, it was just a horrible matchup, and the Liberty got them up out of there, plain and simple. I know they're happy to get some rest. They'll start things off in the finals in New York on Thursday. They're waiting to see how this game shakes out to see who they play, but yeah, man, they look like they're ready to finally get the Liberty a trophy. They're one of the original franchises, and they still haven't got one. So yeah, man, they look hungry. They've been using their loss as motivation all year, and they're 3 wins away.
Yeah, I think you summed it up perfectly. They got to look back. Octavia, your thoughts on the series?
I mean, yeah, like you said, I feel like getting a lick back and proving a point is like an understatement. Like, I think I read something where it said Jonquel Jones said it felt like a rite of passage for them to beat them. And I would hate for people to try to say, the Aces, winning 3 times back to back is a hard feat. Yeah, it is, but that ain't got nothing to do with this. They went out there, like you said, put belt to ass, and that front line was just too big. Phoebage was causing havoc as well in the defensive end. I mean, Chelsea and Jackie couldn't really produce too much within scoring wise within the series as well. And like you said, Brianna Stewie was out there proving a point. Jonquel was proving a point. Sabrina came back with her defensive. She got, like you said, she got better playing defense, so she wasn't a complete liability for them. And then when you look at it on the Aces side, like, even though this player might not have been the best for them, they were even without Kia Stokes. So not even having that type of size to even try to help Asia with deciding if she's going to play against Stewie or Jonquel. It was just not a good matchup for them. And of course, the Aces really put themselves in this position with the way that they played in the regular season as well. It would have been maybe slightly different for them if they had a better seeding and they didn't have to see New York so early on. They could have possibly gotten back to the finals, of course. But how you play during the season, it puts you right in this position that you're in now as well. But it's the Aces. You think that they'll bounce back. There's some question marks on some players that they might not have next year. They're definitely going to have to go back to the drawing board and kind of re-up. I think Kelsey Plum didn't re-sign. Of course, you think about like Alicia Clark, what they're going to do. They've been holding on to Sydney Colson and Kirsten for I don't know why, forever. At this point, they're going to need some more depth as well, because last year they were able to squeak by with not a lot of depth at the end of the season, with injuries to Candace Parker, injuries to Chelsea Gray, injuries to Kia Stokes. So they're going to have to re-up in some type of way. And just like we talked about the Aces 2 years ago, looking poised to repeat, and this is a big if, because The Liberty do still have another series that they have to get through. And right now it looked like it might be Minnesota, and we know what Fees has been doing. So they still have a good feat in front of them too. But if they're able to pull out the first WNBA championship for their franchise, they're going to be poised to repeat as well. And so a lot of people are going to have targets on their backs as well. So, of course, in the middle of a Olympic season, it always just feels like we've been having this season for so long. And I'm just like, I can't believe we're finally almost at the end. But even when you say that we're almost at the end and the season has elongated due to the Olympics break, we'll be right back next year real fast. So it's going to be a great thing to see. I look forward to see if the Liberty are able to do so, because like you said, with them being one of the original franchises, and how they just did my girl Teresa Witherspoon, I think that I think the Liberty are poised to get some love here.
Yeah, like you mentioned, Ray, with it being one of the original franchises, they're gonna go crazy if they get that done. I don't care what professional sport it is in New York. If you win a championship there, you made it. You're good. Like you can't go commit, like turn into a mass criminal or something like that. But they'll let you get away with quite a bit. Right? Like the box in which you're allowed to play is a little wild. But like you guys said, in New York, we knew what time it was with New York since they lost last year. And Ray, I know you brought up Sabrina. I think it's wonderful when you see an athlete kind of like just be self-aware, like, hey, obviously she's not the sole reason that New York lost last year, but you went from being a part of the opponent's game plan in a positive way for the opponent to the opponents having to figure out how to stop you. Not your two superstar teammates at the 4 and 5, but you. How to get the ball out your hands. And then also, but if she gets it out of her hands, who's the ball going to? Like, they couldn't figure out what the hell to do with her on offensive end. And like you said, holding up is crazy. You insert Phoebich. So you got Benaja Laney Hamilton. People just greatest glue piece in the league that's better than a glue piece. I feel bad calling her a glue piece. Like, she's just a hell of a wing. Bro, that's a big team. That's a really big team. I don't think people realize, like, you don't bully Benaja Laney Hamilton. Sabrina's holding her own. Phoebich is 6'4". Stewie's got an 8-foot wingspan or whatever, 7-foot wingspan, whatever she has. Like, it's absurd. 7-foot wingspan, sorry. John Quayle's John Quayle. Like, if Sabrina can hold up, which we saw, who do you pick on? And then on the other end, you lost depth. You lost valuable pieces. And again, for the Aces, this happens all championship teams. This is why it's hard to repeat. You lose pieces that help. You lose vital pieces that helped you win a championship. And sometimes people forget about those pieces in the margin that change the series. They're gone. Like, they're just not available to you at the moment. All right, on to this series. Octavia already mentioned, like, it's a little lopsided at the moment. Minnesota's trying to take care of business in a big way at home. And again, this is why you play to have home court advantage. Close to a 20-point lead over the Sun. If not, I think I'm a little bit behind. Ray, we'll start with you. Just your thoughts on this series, and whether you want to factor in that Minnesota's leading at the moment or
not. It was looking fairly even until tonight. Minnesota, they on one tonight, man. They're getting heavy contributions offensively from Caleb McBride and Courtney Williams, which have kind of been inconsistent throughout the series, which is why the games have been close. But as you can see, if one of them is on, it's a problem because you already know you got to account heavily for fees, and then one of them relieving pressure. But both of them on at the same time, it's tough, as we're seeing. But overall, man, we knew it was going to be a super physical series. That was my thing. Game one was definitely a defensive masterclass. So I just wanted to see who was going to make adjustments to kind of figure the other team out. And both teams have been able to kind of get loose offensively at moments, but nobody really had one of those games like we're seeing tonight from Minnesota, where where the rim is just wide open and huge for them. and everything's falling right now for Minnesota. And it's we're going to see if Connecticut can claw their way back into it. But yeah, they're another team like Wilson. You brought up a lot of times. They've been nibbling around the edges for a while, man. Had a couple finals appearances recently. They just can't ever seem to get over the hump. And unless they're able to have a miraculous comeback tonight, this season's going to end the same way. But yeah, man, Minnesota. We know their history. One of the I think they're only the second franchise with 4 championships. Them and the Houston Comets. So, Cheryl Reeve, we know what she's about. Championship level coach. She assembles rosters to win rings. And look like she's trying to get another one. So yeah, man, it's gonna be interesting to see what this second half looks like. We know it's a game of runs. Who knows what happens after that mid game break? Maybe Connecticut goes in the locker room and figures things out and get their legs up under them. Or maybe they don't. Minnesota continues to run away with it. Just anxious to see how this one shakes out.
Yeah, and to your point, that's kind of not to the same degree, but Connecticut had to rally last game. And they're able to get it done. But hey, man, you can only go down in a hole so many times before sometimes you just can't climb all the way back out of it. And in any elimination game, the last place you want to be in is a deep hole to have to fight your way out of it again. You just played 4 games, but we'll see how it goes. But Octavia, your thoughts on Minnesota and Connecticut?
Yeah, like you said, like the first game, Connecticut came out swinging. Marina Mayberry and her shooting, which has fallen off significantly. You could see in the last couple of games. I think she was 0 for 9 from 3 in one of the games, and she can. I mean, granted, shoot or shoot, you're gonna try to shoot your way out of it, but I mean, you could tell her lift wasn't there. You never want to count Connecticut out completely because you have the likes of DeWanna Bonner and Alyssa, but I think in the first game, it felt like Connecticut was bullying Minnesota to a certain degree. And I think Minnesota was like, oh, this is what y'all trying to do. Oh, all right, let's play. I think it's understated how big of a pickup it was for them with Maisha Hines-Allen, who of course we all loved here. She came in and you could tell she put the fire in them as well. Fees is going to do what Fees does. And like you said, Courtney and McBride. I mean, Courtney is basically automatic from like mid-range at this point. Pretty much anytime she's pulling up, she's knocking it down. But on the Connecticut side, I think Dejanay Carrington is doing everything she can. She's definitely getting in the lane and trying to cause as much havoc as she can. But Minnesota just seems to be like, no, we're gonna bully y'all now. Like that's how y'all wanted to start the series off. Let's get it at this point. So like you said, game of runs, and you can never count out DeWanna Bonner and Alyssa. And, I think Brianna Jones had a tough series in the beginning, and she started to kind of find her footing a little bit. I think she had like 18 or 19 points in her last game. So if she's able to kind of lock back into a certain degree, I mean, she has 6 points. Dejanay Carrington hasn't scored. She's 0 for 2. They're 2. Let me see. Somebody just scored another 3. I think it was Marina Mayberry because I just looked. They were 2 for 7. Now they're 4 for 9. So they're trying to mount a little bit of a comeback, 44-30 at this point. But I do think it's going to come down to the wire. Like you said, that halftime break, they can definitely go in there because Connecticut's been so close so many times over these last couple of years. It's got to be in the back of their head like we can't do this again. I think it was in the first series where they said like they've always lost game 2. And they just, for whatever reason, couldn't get over that hump. So I think sometimes it's a mental thing as well. So hopefully they put up some fight to make it interesting. But right now it looks like Minnesota might just go ahead and cruise away, and we're going to have a Minnesota-New York finals. But I guess we'll see after tonight.
Yeah, Ray, like you said, biggest thing you said, Cheryl Reeves puts rosters together to compete for championships. That is a well-built roster. Like they've been going through it a few years, but they've been stacking pieces on their roster. Like there's former first-round picks on their team that are part of the depth of their roster. But yeah, shout out to Coach Reeve, and tremendous job she's done. Anytime you're in any sentence or phrase with the Houston Comets and the W, you've done something well. And not just well, but extremely well. You don't just get mentioned with them. Just to get mentioned is not an accident. All right, real quick Wizards update for you guys. The preseason got underway. They began their preseason schedule with a tilt up north of in Montreal. I'm sorry, we just finished saying Minnesota so many times. In Montreal, they faced the Toronto Raptors. Toronto jumped on them early, never looked back. They got the 125-98 win. There were a few positives. Some of the youngsters had some bright spots in their first outing, but it's quite obvious, shocker, this team, which how they finished last year, has some work to do. Who would have thunk it? I don't think that's any shock for anybody. But again, if you want some more in-depth look at what we took from that game, head over to our Roku channel and just check out Wizards Outlook, hit the Wizards Outlook tab, and check it out from Sunday evening. Again, up next, the Wizards will play the Knicks Wednesday, and then they come back home to host the Raptors at Capital One. All right, let's get to take it or leave it, because stuff happened. So let's get to it. I don't know a better segue. I'm sorry, stuff happened. Let's take it or leave it. All right, here we go. USC sophomore phenom Juju Watkins has agreed to a multi-year contract extension with Nike that will give her one of the richest shoe endorsement deals in women's basketball. This is coming from Shams. Also weird to say now, shout out to Shams because he is now taking over Woj's old post at ESPN. So they're not going back and forth anymore. It's just Woj's watch was over. Shams' watch has begun, I guess. I have nothing else for that. But Ray, take it or leave it. Just what this means for Juju and just for the sport in general.
Definitely taking it, man. After the freshman season she had, wearing this NIL age and, obviously there's a lot of new eyes on the women's game. I think it's a brilliant move. I think it's definitely good to see them start to get in on women's basketball players early, just to kind of build that momentum. So especially with them having to, basically stay in college the whole time, she gets to continuously build that fan base and, build social currency. So by the time she's ready to go to the next level, it's already built in and has more potential to carry over. So I like to see that type of investment, especially at this stage, while the mercury is still rising, so to speak. And I have no doubt she'll continue to be phenomenal on the court. Yeah, man, it's just good to see. It's good to see that growth. It's good to see that level of investment from Nike. It's really a no-brainer to me. She's on pace to do some stuff, man. So yeah, they just, and outside of just simply offering a deal, I'm curious to see the level the level they put behind her marketing push. Because it's been an endless conversation about missed opportunities like this. So yeah, it'll just be good to see them build that up and see how she progresses from this point on.
Octavia, take it or leave it.
100% taking it. Like Ray said, it's about time. We've had college players that could have demanded some of these things as well, but here we are finally. And I have no doubt that she's going to be one of the best players that is going to be a part of the women's game. All you Caitlin Clark fans, soak up these last couple of years, because when Juju gets here, it's going to get real too. So yeah, I'm excited for her. I think she is. I also think it helps her kind of come out of her shell a little bit, because I feel like she's a relatively kind of quiet person, but the more she kind of gets into the spotlight a little bit, you see her in commercials, you see her doing podcasts and things of that sort. So I am also interested to see how Nike's going to push her as well. But I think with the explosion of the women's game, that it's a no-brainer that you got to get behind these players, and she's definitely one to get behind. So I'm glad for her, and I'm hoping that it comes with much, much success.
And another great thing for the marketing, well, I'm a big fan of this. They're joining the Big Ten. I mean, she's going to be on the East Coast several times this year. And that's somebody who's predominantly been on the West Coast outside of, tournaments or what have you. Every once in a while, you come over here. So that's great. The East Coast was a little bit spoiled because they got I know I was in the Midwest, but they play in the Big Ten. You got to see Caitlin up and down this side of the country for the most part. Versus, Juju's freshman year was in the Pac-12. It's so crazy because it doesn't exist anymore. I'm not acknowledging whatever the new thing is. I refuse. So, old man
just added somebody. Wasn't
old man, I don't even know, and it matters not to me. The Pac-12 ended last year for me. I will be old man yelling at cloud about that. It does not matter. It's not the Pac-12 I grew up with. But yeah, sorry Octavia, they keep doing it, so I have no choice. It's not my fault. They keep doing this. Once again, we have division folks talking about division rivals. This time, I guess in a positive way or not, I'm interested to see how you guys take this. We got Micah Parsons and Trayvon Diggs possibly, showing love to Jaden Daniels or in the Commanders. Or I just want to know how you guys interpret it. Either way, Mike is like, if he can go out there and dominate the Ravens, that would be huge. Diggs' response, I for sure think it's going to get done. Like, I think he can do it. So take it or leave it, like them big up in the Commanders in this time and space, or is it just division pride, or is it also just like, are you trying to put a battery in the Ravens' back? Like, are the Ravens on the Cowboys schedule? Like, is it just them talking? Is this just another reason of why podcasts shouldn't happen? Just take it or leave it. Octavia, we'll start with you and then Ray. I got it.
God, I wish they would shut up. I swear I wish they would shut up. Like, where are we? What alternate universe are we in? I am completely leaving this because while, yes, you want to show your brethren love, in the middle of the season, when they 4-1 and you 3-2, and you're injured, and you want them to go out there and dominate the Ravens, the team that almost basically blew y'all out, even though y'all came back. Like, what is this? Like, I don't understand. Like, I just don't understand the softness behind it all. Like, it just seems soft and just like, oh, I love you so much. Like, nobody is saying that you got to diss him or anything like that, but just be like, yeah, the man's having a good year. Like, all of this, it's just wild to me. And it's just, I don't know if that's just this generation. And I'm, like you said, all the time, Wilson, just an old woman yelling at clouds now, because at this point, I don't understand it. I wish that we need to burn all the podcast microphones for professional players, current professional players. Like, they need to just be quiet. Like, I don't understand it. You should probably be bigging up your quarterback instead of watching your wide receiver saying that was what did he say when he mouthed it? Oh, I can't even say the word. I don't know. He told Dak that was a terrible throw, basically. I can't remember the word. It was something like, I can't even remember what it was, but he was like, yeah, poor pass. That was a poor pass. Like, here you go. You got your wide receiver on camera talking bad about your quarterback, but here you are sitting in the podcast studio talking about how great your rivals quarterback is doing. Like, I just wish they would shut up. Like, talk about yourself, talk about your team, talk about your game. Talk about how great his season was when the season is over. And nobody has to feel like, because it's like, I feel like at a certain point, like, even though I don't know, because I'm not a professional athlete, but I understand that they want to be their own person. And, I want to say what I want to say, but it's like, you alienate so many of your fan base sometimes too, because your fans, they're trying to ride for you. And here you are riding for somebody else. It don't make no sense to me.
Ray.
Leave it, man. Like, worry about your game. How about that? Like, bring back the days when the Cowboys had self-respect and did cocaine and ran brothels. Like, come on, man. What are we doing here? Jesus Christ. Like, every week, and while you're either injured or playing terribly, like, is somebody ever going to tell him to shut up? Is one of his teammates going to tell him to shut up? Like, what are we doing here, man? Like, I just don't get it. Like, I don't get it. Like Octavia said, these guys are real lovey-dovey and all that. Like she said, you don't gotta be disrespectful, but you don't gotta have a love fest neither, especially mid-season against the team that's half of one of the biggest rivalries ever in the history of sports.
Like,
Like, come on, man. I need him off my team. Just at this point, go somewhere else, bro.
And for me, the thing that's just so short-sighted is you're doing this. Y'all haven't played them yet. If that little boy wins one of them games, they don't have to win both. Just one. This clip is getting played forever. He doesn't have to win both. They don't have to sweep you. He just got to get one. Whether you're there or not, he just got to get one. And it'll just be played forever. Like, it'll be a piece of a fabric of that history. Like you said, that's one of the greatest rivalries. Why are you messing with that, man? That'd be like Fred. Like, I think KJ Wright coaches. He's a linebacker coach for the Niners right now. Like, that'd be like KJ and Fred sitting down, waxing poetically about the Seahawks and Niners rivalry, in which they've never faced each other. Why? Just
like think about it. Like when they do like the this in the off season, they do voting the best 100 players voted by the players. I keep thinking about that clip when Jamar Chase was like, "I'm not saying his name." Like, I'm just not. Like, I don't.
I appreciate that energy.
Joe Burrow. That's it. Like, I don't know. He's good. I'm not saying his name though. Like, I missed that. That's
right,
what
man.
I missed that. Instead of like, no, like he kind of good, It's like, bro.
Not changing the voices, be like he kind of good. All right, we got one for our guy Idris. Bam's out here. NBA season's approaching. We've been watching Bam kind of slowly extend his range, right? We know Bam, there's so many different things on the basketball court. He has a huge role for the Miami Heat. Like, he's at times their engine. He wears so many hats. But it looks like, we saw a little bit during Team USA's gold medal run. Like, Bam kind of stepped out to hit a couple threes. It wasn't just because they kind of needed some of those. It's with a little bit of pressure on the line. That's it. If he's able to add that to everything else that he does, and I'm not talking about becoming like a 40% three-point shooter or a knockdown shooter, just steady enough that you have to honor the rest of his game. How do you feel that changes, or does it change the ceiling of the Miami Heat? Right.
It definitely changes their ceiling. When you get a guy that's effective as he is, add another dimension to his game. Like you said, he doesn't have to be lights out, just enough where you got to account for it. That makes it easier for him to get to all the stuff that he did previously, and then at times he'll still hit the three. So, I mean, whenever somebody rounds out their game like that, it definitely makes them, more versatile, more dangerous. And it opens things up for your teammates, because now the way that teams defended you before, they got to rethink their whole strategy. And it just, with a player his caliber, it just makes things easier for everyone else, which which always makes the team that much better, that much harder to play against. So yeah, man, it's always good to see somebody add another layer to the game. Definitely don't want to see him fall in love with it. Whenever I see a big that can shoot, my pet peeve is that's all they want to do now. No. If you got somebody that's your size and maybe a little more slower than you, sure, take them out in them deep waters, and where they got to think about it, and then take advantage of it that way. But if you got a player guard you that's way smaller than you, I do not want to see you shooting a three. Go to the box, put them under the rim, and make it easy on yourself. Get a three the old-fashioned way. So yeah, as long as he's able to rein it in, just sprinkle it in when he needs it, and also use it to to get to his spots more effectively, I got no problem with it.
Octavia.
Yeah, Ray took the words right out of my mouth because that was the first thing that I was going to say. Is like, it's always good when you can add more to your game in whatever position you play. But it's when you start falling in love with it and you go away from what your core is. Like, Bam. I mean, for goodness sake, his name is Bam. Like, come on, bro. Like, your name is Bam, Monte, whatever they be calling him. You need to be in the paint, bro. So while yes, I think it will elevate them. It's going to be, they're probably going to need some of that if because I'll be honest, I can't even remember who else is on their team outside of him and Jimmy Butler right now off the top of my head. I mean, you got Jaime, who of course I think this is his second or third year. But it's always going to help you. You just can't fall in love with it when you go away from what your main strength is as a player. I don't want him out there trying to think he Asia Wilson out this joint or anything like that. So you just got to remember, say a little bit in science home. But no, I think it's also, like you said, it's always a good thing to add things to your repertoire. And you think about Cat, Cat is kind of knocked down from outside to a certain degree. So it can always help, but just don't get too crazy with it. I forgot who, when they were talking about like Anthony Davis last year needs to shoot like 10 threes a game or something like that. And I was like, what? Why would we do that? So as long as it's within moderations and it's within the flow of the game, not just because you feel like you want to shoot one, then it could be okay.
I'm not a fan of y'all sensible takes here. We like irrational, like you said, 10 to 15 a game. All right, we're gonna end with this one just because the Jets are the Jets, man. So gotta love bad teams. All right, so miss everything else the Jets have going on. They decided to fire Robert Saleh today, according to multiple reports. Saleh was hired in 2021, and he finished with a 20-36 record. This is owner's Woody Johnson's first in-season coaching change in his 25 years of ownership. He said, "This is probably the best team I've had in 25 years," which I can't wait to see y'all attack that. "I just felt the best way to go forward was a new direction. Taking Jeff Ulbrich and making him the interim head coach, I thought that would get the most out of this team and give us the best chance that we all want to have, which is going to the playoffs." Thoughts on this decision? Y'all can choose who wants to go first. Mind you, keep in mind, some of the quarterbacks that Robert Saleh has had to endure during this time he was there when the regime, I'm not going to say him, the regime, drafted one Zach Wilson in that wonderful draft way back when nobody enjoyed their quarterback that they took in that draft. Everybody felt like they lost for the most part. Was that 2021 draft? Was that Trey, Justin, Mac, and just everybody failed as a group? Everyone lost. That was the draft, right? That was it. It is possible for everyone to lose draft. Yeah, that one. I'm sorry, y'all. Like, I would love to lie and call it something else, but like, all these guys are in a different place, hoping that they get an opportunity to write this shit of their career. That said, I don't know what you expected someone to go 20-36 with, where you get Zach Wilson. I don't know who in between, and then Aaron Rodgers. However, we're here. Octavia, right? Who wants to go first? Your thoughts on Woody Johnson firing Robert Saleh?
I'll go because I'm gonna keep it short and sweet. Like, I don't know what they're gonna do now anyway. Like, I don't understand they're 5 games into the season. I mean, Aaron Rodgers hasn't looked that great. And like you also said, you had Zach Wilson, you had Mike White at one point, back to Zach Wilson, and then you started with Aaron Rodgers last year, and then that was good for 4 plays, and then you had Mike White again, and I think I forgot who they had behind him. I want to say it was Tyrod for a little bit. I can't remember who else, but like the team as a whole has underachieved. And to me, even with letting Robert Saleh go, and then you replace him with the defensive coordinator when the offense is really what is kind of sucking right now, and you think that getting Davante Adams is going to alleviate all of this is just crazy to me. I think I also read where they said Woody didn't even consult basically anybody else. Like he just made the decision and that's what it was. And then like how do you expect him? Like, don't get me wrong, the head coach always is going to get a lot of the blame when it comes down to stuff and how the team plays. But I mean, was he really the head coach? It seemed like Aaron Rodgers was the head coach. I don't know. So I don't know how much he was supposed to do. I don't really feel like he had a lot of control because of Aaron Rodgers, as well as the GM and owner. But he's probably ecstatic. He's out of this nonsense and this mess. We've seen the type of defensive coordinator he's been in the past. And, you know, sometimes your first time around as a head coach doesn't always go the way that it plans. I mean, look at Dan Quinn. He seems to be getting it right this time so far. So I have, you know, you never want to see a coach get fired, you know, for their livelihood. But I guess they thought that this would be the shakeup that would be needed while Nathaniel Fickett, whatever his name is still there as well. I just think it's a dumpster fire as a whole. Like we've been talking about Garrett Wilson for however long, and I just feel like Garrett Wilson just looks like he doesn't know how to play football because he's in that organization as of now, and we know that he's that much. We know that he's a great wide receiver, and he's looking at all his wide receiver friends he came in the league with, and like, man, I want to do that. And here you are trying to bring a Devontae Adams, which is going to stunt his growth even more. It's just a dumpster fire all the way around. So congratulations to Robert Saleh for being released from the nonsense. I'm sure he'll find his way back on somebody's coaching staff soon.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, the Jets are never going to be good with him or without him. That's not even where my mind is with this. My thing is, if you let me get out of my bed and go all the way to work just to tell me I'm fired, I'm going to lay hands on everybody in the room. Like, why would you do that? Like, you already knew. Like, call me, send the email, send the text, do something. They look like it's just foolishness all around. And what y'all always say, bad teams do bad things. Like, it's week 5. Like, what do you? You basically just undercut your entire season, no matter what. At this point, like, why would you do that? But yeah, man. People who do stupid stuff like this, I wish them nothing but misfortune. I'm looking forward to seeing them continue to fail.
Yeah, the crazy part to me, right, is your offense isn't working. You got rid of your defensive head coach for the offense not working, but y'all got rid of his offensive coordinator for the handpicked coordinator for the quarterback that y'all went to go get. Again, say it one more time because I'm just trying to follow it. So this guy took over in 2021. The Jets been a dumpster fire. It is what it is, all right? He inherited this team from the great Adam Gase. All right? They were 2-14. His first year, they go 4-13. Worst defense in the league. It jumps up to 4 the following year. The next year, it's 12 in points, 3 in yards. This year, they're 5th in points, 2nd in yards. If the quarterback is somebody else, are we even thinking about the defense? Like what are we doing here? Also, the coordinator now isn't the coordinator that Saleh brought in with him. Because Saleh did like every other dude out that system that he came from did, which was bring the guy that runs something similar to the place you left. That's one of the reasons the team I root for keeps losing assistant coaches. They leave with the people that leave. Y'all got rid of that person. D'Amico took a couple with him. The one that went with D'Amico helped CJ Stroud eat in an offense, having a blast. They had a great time last year. Fun. Kevin O'Connell over there in Minnesota running this system. It works or whatever. I don't get it. Like, I just don't understand that. But again, bad teams do bad things, and that's wild. And I think another part of the story that came out, and I think it's been confirmed, which is kind of wild, is like they try to say just protocol, like he came to work and escorted out the building because he was fired. Like, that's just wild to me. Like, y'all gotta do better. And then the owner's gonna try to make a plea. Do you think Hassan Reddick's coming to work for you after that? If he wasn't here before, like, are you out of your mind? You think Hassan Reddick's coming to work? I don't know about you, but I just stay at home, take my fines if I'm getting fined, and you could trade me. Or, I mean, I guess my body's gonna be fresh for next year. Like, I don't know, but I'm not coming back to work for you. Like, that's absurd. That's crazy, man. But again, we appreciate y'all tuning in. Don't forget, get over to thefocustv.com. Every Wednesday mornings, early as 9 a.m. on our Roku channel. Again, it's a revamped channel. If you guys already have the channel, all you have to do is update the channel. If you don't know how to do this, just highlight the app on your remote. Hit the asterisk key. I love that key on the remote. And just hit update. If you don't have the channel, it's really easy for you guys. You just got to go into the search box, type in Focus TV, double tap OK to add the channel, and you got everything you need. Because we'll see you a couple more times this week for Wizards Outlook as we go through our preseason reps, because opening night's coming very, very soon. And then, you know, college basketball literally is like, it's here. You can call it what it is. It's here. And we'll see you guys next week to talk more WNBA finals and to see whatever the heck else happened in the NFC East.